Over to the rand now. The local currency has had a roller coaster ride. This as various macroeconomic headwinds have ensured that it remains above the 19 rand mark against the US dollar. Forex Structurer at RMB Rayno Nigrini joins us now to analyze the factors influencing the rand's performance. Thank you so much for your time, Rayno. It's been quite interesting looking at the rand. I mean, I know that it's called the rattlesnake, but I actually did not expect this much volatility in such a short space of time. I mean, even today it went below 19 rand against the US dollar. I think last week it went to 19 rand to 25. Today it's just over that 19 rand mark. What is going on here?
The rand is one of those things. You called it the rattlesnake, and it's called that for a reason. It really is so volatile. I think you said above 1925 last week. Don't forget, it almost went to 1940. I think the high was about 1938 on a bit of a spike there in the early hours of the one morning. There's just so much going on and so many data releases from offshore and so many headlines making the market news at the moment that it's tough to kind of pinpoint where we should be. So let's take today's kind of roller coaster ride for you. You've got the bid from BHP for Anglo American, very nice big bid there, 570 billion rand approximately. Anglo share price is doing phenomenally well. The SARB officially launched CODI, the Corporation for Deposit Insurance. So that subsidiary is kind of I would say bolstered the financial services sector a little bit, or at least the trust that is in the financial services sector in SA. So that's all the kind of reasons I would say why we went below 19 today, towards that 1895.
Yes.
And then, boom, US inflation, or not inflation, but PCE data gets released and US GDP, and we're backtracking up towards that 1910 level. It's absolutely wild.
Yeah, indeed, it's really just a lot of factors doing this kind of push and pull effect on the rand. And actually just zooming in on, because it's also like we've got kind of contrasting data. US GDP slows, right? And usually that would signal that the Fed would actually want to slow down on, rather start I don't know, kind of pulling the can a little bit closer for interest rate cuts because they're worried about, the growth of the economy. But then you still have the sticky inflation PCE. I mean, do you also feel like there's a push and pull there? Is there a certain direction that, for example, the dollar is going in as it's digesting this new data?
I think there's definitely a very big push and pull with US data at the moment. And it's all the data. A lot of the data that's coming out of the US is kind of surprising us either upwards or downwards. We've seen it with non-farm payrolls for the last couple of releases and so on. So it really is kind of what's just been released and what does that mean for the story that the Fed is still posing for higher for longer and how much longer. PCE coming out at 3.7% versus the 3.4% is kind of, they use it as a barometer for where inflation could potentially end up, right? And if you see this figure kind of printing higher, but GDP growth in the US in the first quarter of the year kind of slowing, it's like, is the US economy still as robust as it has been the last couple of times? Because we've really seen the US economy printing. It's been outperforming and doing so well of late that this is the first time we've seen the GDP print miss and be so far below expectation. So it could almost be, is there perhaps a revision that might come later, or is this the actual number that's come through? And it gives this murky kind of water to it, and that's when emerging market currencies, in particular currencies like the rand, really struggle, because when there's a lot of uncertainty, the rand's kind of the first one that everyone decides to offload.
You're right. Yeah, indeed. It's going to be quite interesting because, I mean, we have had this economic data coming out just a few days before the Fed starts its next meeting next week. So it's going to be quite interesting to see the clues that the Fed gives us in terms of monetary policy going forward, and maybe when we can start getting those interest rate cuts. Let's go on to other factors that are, have an impact on the rand. How much risk is factored into the rand concerning Middle East tensions at this point with the latest developments?
So remember, Middle East tensions don't just kind of, it impacts such a broad range of things. The oil price, the gold price, everything kind of hinders on what's happening there and how much that escalation could occur. I, I believe that where we kind of are, we are relatively weak. RMB believes that the rand will be at about 1790 by end of year. But again, that forecast takes into account that there's a lot of things happening this year. We've got not only tensions in Middle East, we've got our local elections in May, we've got the US elections at the end of the year. There's a lot that can happen between now and the end of the year that could put this rand well above 20. It could put it well below 17. There's really a lot of push and pull going on. But at this point, RMB is pegging it at 1790.
I wish we could fast forward.
I also wish we could fast forward. Skip to the good part.
Exactly. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights today, Rayno. Really appreciate it. That was Forex Structurer at RMB, Rayno Nigrini.